Still holding on to 13 years of resentment, Law and Doflamingo confront one another. Meanwhile, in the corridor Colosseum, Rebecca finds herself pushed towards the edge of the ring. Suddenly, she unleashes the special technique she learned from the one-legged soldier who is so dear to her heart.
On the next One Piece, Rebecca's special attack. Back to the water dance. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
As Rebecca desperately brandishes her sword to secure the Flame fruit, she is forced into a confrontation against the cruel military commander Rolling Logan. Thus begins the showdown between her beautiful battle dance and Logan's powerful pulverizing technique.
On the next One Piece, the most violent fighter, Logan versus Rebecca. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
While the Block D melee rages on, the little people begin to recount the 900-year history of the Riku and Don Quixote families. As the story unfolds, we learn more about the brave toy soldier who dedicated his life to protecting King Riku and Rebecca during this violent conflict.
On the next One Piece, a big surprise! A true identity of the toy soldier! I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
For 800 years, the Riku royal family worked to maintain peace in the proud kingdom of Dressrosa. But then, 10 years ago, King Riku encountered a terrible demon, and what followed was a night of unspeakable tragedy that the inhabitants of this land can never forget.
On the next One Piece, a horrible past, the secret of Dressrosa. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Doflamingo manipulates the Riku army. Suddenly, a hero arrives to save the day, none other than Doflamingo himself. As the citizens' cheers echo across the land, a new era of suffering begins.
On the next One Piece, a nightmare, the tragic night of Dressrosa. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Luffy reunites with Zoro and the others. Meanwhile, the conflict between the two mighty warlords rises to a head. Law's thirst for revenge is strong, but Doflamingo's indomitable wrath is about to bring their epic battle to a horrific conclusion.
On the next One Piece, a showdown between warlords. Law versus Doflamingo. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
After Luffy's group of allied pirates find themselves fenced in by the Navy, the Straw Hats finally spring into action, retrieving Law, destroying the factory, and Rebecca's wish. Thinking of all these things inspires Luffy to let out a mighty battle cry before the final round.
On the next One Piece, two great rivals meet each other. Straw Hat and Heavenly Demon. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
After the untimely death of Portgas D. Ace, the legendary pirate known as Whitebeard once proclaimed that an inheritor would someday appear. Now, 2 years later, that man finally makes himself known to Straw Hat Luffy, who had fought hard to overcome the loss of his brother.
On the next One Piece, Luffy astonished, the man who inherits Ace's will. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
After his fateful reunion with Sabo, Luffy races to the palace to stop Doflamingo. Meanwhile, the hero Usopp rushes through the underground tunnels to begin Operation SOP. What he finds is another world that represents the dark underbelly of Dressrosa.
On the next One Piece, Operation SOP starts. Usopp charges forth. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
The toy soldier races toward Doflamingo while Rebecca struggles valiantly in the Colosseum. With the thoughts of one another keeping them strong, both warriors do their best to survive. However, the weary Rebecca finds herself in grave danger when Suleiman unleashes his overwhelming power.
On the next One Piece, a burning passion. Rebecca versus Suleiman. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
What happened in the battle for Block D? And what are the slicing winds of Rommel that instantly knocked every single fighter to the ground? When the shocking truth is revealed, it sends tremors through the Colosseum and sets Rebecca's destiny in stone.
On the next One Piece, the end of the match? A surprising result of Block D. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Luffy and the others meet up with Violet to sneak their way into the royal palace. Meanwhile, Fujitora's true intentions are revealed, which in turn pits Navy Admiral against Warlord of the Sea. Now an already explosive situation has become even more volatile.
On the next One Piece, the Admiral's decision. Fujitora versus Doflamingo. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
The final battle to win the Flame Fruit is finally underway. The stalwart Diamante comes face to face with Lucy, the man who is destined to inherit Ace's will. As the Colosseum roars with excitement, the Don Quixote family executive demonstrates the true extent of his power.
On the next One Piece, the final round starts. Diamante the hero shows up. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Luffy and friends continue to make quick progress in their mission until they run into a massive wall in the form of Pika. With the power to control the palace itself, the final Don Quixote family executive proves that he won't be an easy obstacle for the team to overcome.
On the next One Piece, a moving castle. The top executive Pika rises up. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
As the suspenseful tournament for the Flame Fruit continues to rage, Burgess of the Blackbeard Pirates pits his deadly shockwave elbow against Lucy's all-destroying dragon power. Soon the crowd will witness the immeasurable strength of the man who will inherit Ace's will.
On the next One Piece, Dragon Claw strikes. Lucy's intimidating attack. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Under the command of the fearless hero Usopp, the little people break in, hoping to overpower Sugar and the intimidating abilities granted to her by the Hobby Fruit. This fight could end in either joy or devastation. Regardless, the battle soon hurtles toward its harrowing climax.
On the next One Piece, defeat Sugar. The army of the little people charges. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
The destruction caused by Treble's violent attack brings Leo and the Tontatta's plans to a sudden halt. It seems the only hope left for King Riku and his army falls on the shoulders of the toy soldier. Once known as a legend throughout Dressrosa, his true identity is about to be revealed.
On the next One Piece, the last light of hope, the secret of our commander. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
The toy soldier dashes through the palace to face off with Doflamingo. Then a fearsome foe named Gladius appears in his path. Overwhelmed by his explosive strength, the toy soldier soon finds his life in peril. When all hope seems lost, suddenly Luffy rushes in like the wind.
On the next One Piece, the Rupture Man. Gladius blows up big time. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Operation SOP has become a catastrophic failure. Without a hint of mercy, Treble crushes one Tontatta after another. But even as their friends cry out in torment, they never lose hope, because they still believe that the legendary hero Usopp will save them.
On the next One Piece, a liar, Usopp on the run. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Years ago, in the kingdom of Dressrosa, there was a savage warrior who was feared like a wild beast. His name was Kyros. When he crossed paths with King Riku, the long-forgotten tale of a legendary gladiator was born.
On the next One Piece, a fateful encounter, Kyros and King Riku. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
10 years ago, Kyros, now only known as the Toy Soldier, was tragically torn away from his loved ones. In order to restore the gladiators' humanity, Usopp begins a desperate battle with Treble, but it may take a miracle if he wants to make it out alive.
On the next One Piece, the operation failed. Usopp the hero dies? I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Against all odds, Usopp made a miracle happen. Toys are turning back into humans, throwing Dressrosa into chaos. Before Doflamingo can react, the undefeated gladiator Kyros pours his heart and soul into an attack many years in the making.
On the next One Piece, the legend is back. Kyros' all-out blow. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Kyros handily defeats Doflamingo, sending his associates in the palace into a state of panic. Meanwhile, the Battle of the Colosseum reaches its climax. At last, the fate of the Flame Fruit will be decided.
On the next One Piece, the Fire Fist strikes. The Flame Fruit power returns. I'm gonna be king of the pirates! Subscribe, you guys! Join our crew on the One Piece YouTube channel!